Today I would like to talk to you about the basics of organ donation. My hope is that your knowledge will be expanded after this short presentation. What is organ donation? Organ donation is the process of giving an organ or part of an organ for the purpose of transplantation into another person. You're basically taking healthy organs from one body and transplanting them into another body. A donor can either be living or deceased. Why should you consider organ donation? By giving someone your organs, you are giving that person another chance at life when yours cannot continue. Your family can be comforted by knowing that even if you aren't here, your organs are in somebody else and you are living on through them. The donation can bring donor and recipient families together, which means you have the opportunity to meet the ones your loved one helped save. Donation is kept confidential unless both families want to meet. The donor network can help arrange you to meet if that is what you both desire. Becoming an organ donor. First, you need to check mark the box Yes on your driver's license. Second, you can go to the State Donor Registry website at www.iowadonornetwork.org. When going to the State Donor Registry, there's a quick and easy form to fill out with basic information such as your name, date of birth, if you want your organs to be used for donation, research, or both, and if they are to be given to someone specific. This only takes a few minutes to fill out. Talking with family and friends is probably the most important step of all, so there are no questions at the time of your death. By talking to your family about your wishes, it can also make it easier for your family when that time comes because they will know what your exact wishes are. Here are some fun facts. Did you know that every 10 minutes a new person is added to the National Organ Transplant waiting list? An average of 22 people die each day while waiting. On average, 81 transplants take place every day in the United States. In 2014, the lives of 29,532 Americans were saved by organ donation. One donor can save up to 9 lives through organ donation and save and heal more than 100 lives through tissue donation. A national computer system and strict standards are in place to ensure ethical and fair distribution of organs. Organs are matched by blood and tissue typing, organ size, medical urgency, waiting time, and geographic location. All major religions support organ or tissue donation. They actually consider it an act of charity. Anyone can become an organ donor. Medical condition at time of death makes your actual determination on what or if you can donate. There is no cost to the donor's family or estate for organ and tissue donation. If you are sick or injured and admitted to the hospital, the number one priority is to save your life. Organ donation can only be considered after brain death has been declared by a physician. Information about an organ donor is only released to the recipient if the family of the donor requests or agrees to it. Otherwise, a patient's privacy is maintained for both donor families and recipients. Living donation increases the existing organ supply. Demand for organs far exceeds the supply. People most often become a donor after stroke, heart attack, or severe head injury. Donors are needed for all races and ethnic groups. Transplant success rates increase when organs are matched between members of the same ethnic background. You may be wondering what can be donated. Your kidney, heart valves, lungs, pancreas, liver, skin, bone marrow, cornea, intestines, and tendons. These are all things that can be given through donation after brain death. We will talk a little bit later about living donors. In Iowa, there are currently 647 people waiting for a transplant. And there have been 23 total donors this year so far. And for the people who are actually waiting for organs, this is a kind of a breakdown of how many there are. So just in Iowa, there are 38 people waiting for a heart, 8 people waiting for lungs, 25 people waiting for a liver, 563 people waiting for a kidney. There are 12 people waiting for a kidney pancreas, and 1 person just waiting for a pancreas. This data is all from June 1st of this year. Nationally, there are currently over 123,000 people waiting on the transplant list. This is just a screenshot of the amount of donations that take place every year. These are very large numbers, but there are still a lot of people dying each and every day waiting on a transplant. Some basic steps in the deceased donation. We're going to use an example of a patient who was in a car crash who suffered a severe brain injury. So a specialized team of EMTs and paramedics would begin life-saving efforts at the scene. They would contact the emergency room doctors while they're transporting the patient to the hospital. When that team arrives at the hospital, the ER doctors and nurses evaluate injuries and they continue life-saving measures, which may include a ventilator, IV fluids, blood replacement, and medicine to help keep the heart beating. After the vital signs stabilize, the patient is transferred to the ICU, where a doctor performs special tests to see how much damage has been done to the brain and organs. The medical team continues advanced life-saving measures during the test. Brain death is diagnosed as an irreversible loss of blood flow to the whole brain, which causes the brain to die. After brain death, the donor's body is supported by artificial means such as a ventilator. Specially trained medical practitioners from the Organ Procurement Organization go to the hospital to see if the patient is medically suitable for organ donation. The doctor would talk to the family about the patient's death. Then someone from the Organ Procurement Organization or a specially trained hospital staff would talk to the family about donation. If the patient had already signed up to be a donor or is on the state or national registry, that information is shared with the family, and then the Organ Procurement Organization family counselor would talk to the family and explain the donation process and answer any questions that they may have. If the patient has not signed up with the state or national registry at the time of their death, then the patient's family would take time to think and ask any questions before they make that decision. The donation decision is easier if the family has previously discussed the donation. The donor's blood type, height, weight, hospital zip code, and other data are entered into UNOS national computer system to begin the organ allocation process. Appropriate candidates are found for whom the donor's organs are the best match. Timing is especially important at this step and during recovery. The donor is taken to the operating room where organs are surgically removed. After that, the organs are then sent to the transplant hospitals where candidates are waiting for them. The donor is treated with honor and respect throughout the donation. After donation, the donor is taken to a funeral home and the Organ Procurement Organization works with the funeral director to honor the donor and donor's family's funeral wishes. An open casket is still possible after organ donation. A few weeks later, the Organ Procurement Organization sends a letter to the donor's family letting them know which organs were transplanted, and they keep the names of the recipients confidential. Most organ procurement organizations continue to provide support to donor families, such as bereavement counseling and later memorial events. If at the time the donor families and the recipients wish to correspond further, they would help set that up through guidelines that they already have. Moving on to living donation. Living donors need to be in good health both physically and mentally. They must be at least 18 years of age. Some medical conditions that may prevent living kidney donation include uncontrolled high blood pressure, diabetes, cancer, HIV, hepatitis, acute infections, or a psychiatric condition requiring treatment. The kidney is the most transplanted organ in living donation. On occasion, a segment of liver is transplanted, and it's rare, but sometimes segments of lung, intestines, and pancreas can also be transplanted by a living donor. So the different types of living donor transplants. In a directed donation, the donor names the specific person to receive the transplant. This is the most common type of living donation. The donor may be a relative, close friend, or just someone who they heard is in need. In non-directed donation, the donor does not name the specific person to get the transplant. The match is arranged based on medical compatibility with a patient in need. Paired donation involves two pairs of living kidney donors and transplant candidates who do not have matching blood types. The two candidates trade donors so that each candidate receives a kidney from a donor with a compatible blood type. In blood type incompatible donation occurs when a transplant candidate receives a kidney from a living donor with a non-matching blood type. To decrease the risk of rejection of the donated organ, candidates receive specialized medical treatment before and after the transplant. This may include removing the transplant candidate's spleen during the transplant. Positive cross-match donation involves a living donor and a transplant candidate who do not match because the candidate has certain antibodies, which is a protein substance, that will immediately react against the donor's cells and cause the transplant to fail. Specialized medical treatment is provided to prevent rejection. This type of donation is usually only considered when no other living donors match. The living donor process, first you contact a transplant center and they will typically ask for your consent to begin a basic medical screening. With that consent, the transplant center staff will ask you questions about your medical history to find out if you have any conditions that would keep you from being a donor. This initial screening is typically followed by a blood test to see if you are compatible with the intended transplant candidate. If you are not compatible with that person, you may have other options to donate. Transplant centers are required to provide you an independent donor advocate for all potential donors. Your independent donor advocate should not be part of the potential transplant recipient's medical team, and they will assist you during the donation process. In conclusion, I hope you have learned the basics about organ donation. Regardless of how you feel, be sure to talk to your family so they are aware of your wishes. If you want to be an organ donor, be sure to mark yes on your driver's license and also register online. Spread the word to your family and friends if you wish on what you learned today. You could be the one to help save not only one person, but multiple people's lives someday. Thank you for your time. For more information, you can visit the Iowa Donor Network or the UNOS website.